Morning again, everyone. I am your host for Wednesday, April the 15th, 2020. We are back with some news for you guys. Of course, I will be leaving links in the description box below where many of you know that today is the day where hundreds of thousands of the American people here are now receiving their stimulus checks, as many of you already know. Some have not received their checks, but however, though, we were reading some articles not too long ago via links to the IRS where you can track your check, of course, as many of you have probably already heard as well, guys. But as always, we're going to be leaving links in regards to all of this where you can read into this yourself. But if you would like to keep up any further updates or any breaking news, please do feel free to subscribe and we will do our very best to bring that to you guys. But of course, the article I will be leaving links here goes on to read, the Washington Post published a story on Tuesday, well, of course, the Washington Post, claiming the stimulus checks going out to the vast majority of the Americans as a result of the coronavirus crisis are being held up due to the fact President Trump's name is being affixed to them. Well, of course, nothing could be further from a lie because, for one, this is coming from the Washington Post, and many of us know they are no faker than CNN and MSNBC and the rest of them, guys, okay? But of course, we will get further into this article because this is out of Breitbart News, guys, where the article further reads here. The opening sentence to the article from Lisa Rain claims that adding Trump's name to the checks of tens of millions of Americans is a process that could slow the delivery by the next few days. But of course, again, we've been reading further articles just this past week as well, stating that for those who have gone on to file and have not given the proper credentials to whoever it is that they went to, let's say, for example, their bank information, so that the IRS can properly process the whole thing, it's going to be a little bit of a delay. Many other news outlets have went on to state that many have not done this will not receive their stimulus checks until sometime near the end of the month, as many of you may already know, guys. But again, the article here further reads, before we get off track, a team working from home is now racing to implement a programming change that two senior IRS officials said will probably lead to a delay in issuing the first batch of paper checks. They are scheduled to be sent Thursday to the Bureau of Fiscal Services for printing and issuing. Computer code must be changed to include the president's name and the system must be tested, these officials went on to state. A last-minute request like this will create a downstream snarl that will result in a delay, said Chad Hooper, a quality control manager who serves as national president of the IRS's Professional Managers Association. But the idea here will be some kind of a delay is not true. As again, many of you already know, there is no delay by President Trump's name being implemented on these checks, guys. However, though, he is the one who is working to get the American people these stimulus checks, while everybody else is complaining and talking about President Trump ain't doing anything for the American people, and this is his fault because he reacted too soon, and it's just all nothing but media propaganda, continuing to spread lies and fear, and we see the constant conspiracy about these whole 5G tower things now, and people spreading all this fear about 5G towers are related to this whole COVID thing and all these people dying. And, as far as I'm concerned, believe what you want to believe when it comes to all that conspiracy, but I'm not really buying into much of that, guys. But of course, I will be leaving links in the description box below where you can read further into this, guys. But just a couple more articles here we're going to get into, guys, because we got a lot more to cover. But we're going to be doing our best to monitor this in the event that President Trump gives another press conference in regards to the whole COVID-19 issue, guys. If you just give me a quick second here, I do apologize. Don't know what's going on. Seems to have frozen. Here we go. Let me see here. Oh, Maxine Waters. This ought to be good, guys. Let's see what The headline here reads, Maxine Waters people goes on to state, people could think stimulus checks are bogus after seeing Trump's name. Well, that's no surprise. This is the same woman, as many of you remember a while back, urged people to get in the faces of Trump supporters everywhere and your politicians and whatnot. But moving on, guys. The article here reads, Maxine Waters, Democrat of California, on Tuesday evening ripped President Donald Trump for insisting that his name appear on the stimulus checks, even suggesting that people may think it's bogus. It's a bogus check from a bogus president. Well, why is that no surprise, guys? These people are just upset because President Trump is doing a much better job than the last president in office, guys. This president is for the American people, and he is putting the American people first, and they cannot take it, guys. But the article here reads, moving on, the Washington Post, citing several senior IRS officials, reported on Tuesday that the Treasury Department has ordered Trump's name to be printed on stimulus checks. The Internal Revenue Service is rushing to send to tens of millions of Americans, a process that could slow their delivery by at least a few days. But of course, again, as I've previously stated, many other news outlets have went on to state that if you have not properly given the IRS your bank credentials or whatever it is, you probably will not receive a paper check in the mail until sometime toward the end of the month, guys. But it goes on to further read here before we move on further. According to the report, Trump had privately suggested to Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin, who oversees the IRS, to allow the president to formally sign checks. But since the president is not an authorized signer for legal disbursements, by the U.S. Treasury, the stimulus checks will reportedly instead bear Trump's name in the memo line below, in line that reads economic impact payment. But moving on here, what has Maxine Waters gone on to state here? It looks like via Twitter, where she went on to state, don't dirty up the economic impact payment with Don the Con's name. That's funny. Name on the checks that are being sent to the American families to get through this crisis. People may think it's a bogus check from a bogus president. Well, Maxine Waters, that's where you're wrong again, sweetheart. You guys could continue to try to lie to the American people and defraud them and get them to thinking that President Trump doesn't care about none of us and he's just doing this for votes or whatever it is. I mean, he's doing this because, right now there's so many of us who are struggling. We are all out of work, in desperate need of trying to get back to work. But again, guys, I will be leaving links in regards to all of this. But, you cannot make this stuff up. They continue on with their constant lies and the attacks of President Trump. When he is doing all that he can to help the American people and try to get us on our feet during this economic crisis and, try to get small businesses everywhere back on their feet, as, this is having a major impact as well on many small businesses, especially mom and pop run businesses. And it's really not fair at all. Many of you may know, AMC Theaters, it's a worldwide, very well known movie theater throughout the entire country, is struggling very seriously. And we've already seen articles via the news or whatever stating where the many major movie theaters around the world may not be able to reopen after this is all over with. But again, guys, we're going to continue to do our very best to monitor this. But again, if we happen to have any more breaking news, I will do my very best to bring that to you guys. And with that being said, again, I am your host. For those of you watching for the first time, do feel free to subscribe. Stay tuned, and God bless.